Hyper Light Breaker is the most recent game from Heart Machine Inc., who made a name for themselves primarily with Hyper Light Drifter, and although their previous game Solar Ash didn't perform incredibly well, it seems to be held in very high regard by those who did play it. At its core, Hyper Light Breaker is a rogue-lite extraction game with a focus on hectic and fast combat with a rewarding meta progression system. I'll leave the gameplay analysis to other channels and just say that despite the performance issues on my ancient half-busted GPU and the lack of a mouse sensitivity slider forcing me to use a controller, I've been having a really fun time playing Hyper Light Breaker. The sound designer, Akash, who also did the sound design for the first game Hyper Light Drifter and gave an awesome GDC talk about his unconventional tools and methods for it, did an amazing job with what I've heard so far in Breaker.
So for this game, we did a lot of experimentation on both ends, but for sound design, I decided to go with weird tech to get a lot of the sounds to sound kind of distorted and crunchy and kind of nightmarish, almost like some sort of Evangelion-ish awful neon nightmare sort of thing. So one of the first things that I went to was a wire recorder, which is a 1950s recording device, which I'll show you in just a second, and it records onto this thin metal filament. So it looks almost like fishing wire. So it's before tape, it's before vinyl, all that sort of stuff. So it creates this really crazy distorted sound when you record directly onto this metal wire.
When it comes to sound design, I'm always looking for ways to make things sound more unique. And considering I'm working on Hyper Light Breaker, the sequel to Hyper Light Drifter, I want things to sound special. But I want it to be different than what I did for the first game. So silly contraptions like this are my favorite way to sound different from everybody else out there.
He mentioned wanting to do different stuff for this follow-up game, but I find it interesting that one of the main palettes is the digital bit-crushing sample rate reduction present in the first game, whether that end result was achieved by using those types of plugins or the wild contraptions he uses to get sounds. The switch from Drifter's 2D to Breaker's 3D has obviously made it look very different, but I really appreciate that much of the UI is still in a Drifter pixel influence style, and that within the audio there's reused sounds and digital influences. It makes me wonder how intentional it was to have the audio be different but also maintain a sense of cohesion from one entry to the next, considering the visuals were changing so much. Sadly, audio was mostly left out of the Noclip documentaries, but maybe it's something that'll be answered later on. Although Akash seems to be a lot more analog in his approach, I think at a higher level he makes his designs feel unique through experimentation and pushing equipment past its normal limits and harvesting the best moments of that. So that's what we're going to do here in the digital world. We're going to recreate a sort of heavy impactability sound in the same general style, and then continue resampling that sound into additional sounds to start building up a palette to pull from for future sounds. First, let's start with a sample of some wooden debris. Then, let's process it to feel more organic and weird. It sounds really cool now, but all the filtering has made it feel a bit dull and lots of the detail from the processing is being lost, so we can use some multiband expansion and heavy compression to bring it back up. Now at this point we have a really cool sound, but it doesn't really sound like an ability. We have a cool plugin chain and we can basically start throwing stuff at it and seeing how it sounds, creating an interesting cadence and relying on the different textures of the sounds we're inputting into the chain to provide variation within it. I actually got a question I asked in the launch Q&A answered by Alx Preston and Michael Clark.
What is both of your favorite sound in the game?
Favorite sound?
Favorite sound. It's not a sound for me, but it's an audio moment. When you first take the elevator up and are presented with a new world, there's some music and stingers, and that is my favorite overall. That elevator ride up, and then you get a reveal of the world, and you get this really. That's the thing that hits me still after having played the game so much. Is like that is a absolutely wonderful moment, and it comes down to the music.
Okay, there's a sound. I don't know if it's my favorite sound. It's one of those sounds where it got annoying after. It was annoying and then it wasn't, and then it's kind of cute. You can kind of hear it, and it's not intended to be this way, but there is a sound that kind of sounds like Yoshi going Yoshi in it when one of the enemies dies. It's not supposed to be that way, but it definitely does sound that way. If you hear it in a certain context and with a group of enemies, it'll, I don't know. It's a funny little unintentional thing.
I wanted to get this video out ASAP, so I haven't played enough to find that Yoshi sound, so if any of you breakers happen to find it, please let us know in the comments. Hyper Light Breaker is out now on early access, and I would definitely recommend keeping an eye on it, because I think it's got some great Hyper Light bones and the potential to become another cult classic for the studio. And if you happen to be a game developer, and you also happen to be looking for a sound person, don't hesitate to hit me up. The website's in the description. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.